Hey yogis, my name is Iida Klein and welcome to Glow. First off, congrats to those of you that are deciding to embark on this yoga journey. I know this may be a very new thing for you, so thanks for showing up here and deciding to practice with me. And in that same vein, I'm about to guide you through what would look like a basic Vinyasa flow class. So really looking at the template of what a flow practice looks like in a very condensed, short amount of time. And just getting a feel for what the movement is like and what these different postures are like. So let's get right into it. Actually, before you start though, just notice I do have these two blocks here on the side. I would recommend, especially if you're new, even if you are embodied physically, 2 blocks will help us out quite a bit throughout this practice, and it's going to help us out right here in the beginning. I'm going to take a block, put it the lowest way possible. All right, I'm going to sit in a position called Virasana, which essentially, I'll show you from behind, is sitting with the block underneath your bum, and your feet end up out on the outside of the block. So if you notice, your knees are in front of you, directly in front of your hips, but your feet end up actually on the outside of the hips. So inner heels to outer hips, you're on the tops of the feet. Of course, if this is troublesome in any way, you can pad up the front of your ankles. As far as your bum is concerned, you really want to feel supported enough that when you do sit straight up, you don't want to feel like your low back is rounding. You want to feel like this low back has a nice little trench, and you're able to actually lift your heart up and feel like the spine is sitting nice and tall above the pelvis, and then the crown of your head sits nicely right on top of the pelvis as well. So this is an easeful seat in a way, right? But feet are outside of you. We call this Virasana, which translates to hero pose. And this is just a seat to help you feel grounded. I would ask if you can, of course it's not mandatory, if you can, close the eyes down. Otherwise, eyes stay open. Hands can go wherever you'd like them to go. Most important, whether your eyes are open or closed, the idea of this seat in the beginning of any practice, especially the Vinyasa flow practice, you are looking to center yourself and ground. And that doesn't have to be super frou-frou. All we're saying is, can you stop what you're doing, all the outside stuff that you have to do, all the things you have to do for the kids or your job or whatever it may be. The idea is, can you stop to start? The best way to do that once you find the seat is to begin to focus on your breath. Just simple inhale through the nostrils and a very simple exhale back out through the nostrils. Right? This is essentially the beauty of the practice. Inhale and exhale. This breath is what's going to guide us through every movement that we make, every transition that we take. And the hope is throughout the practice, can we keep this even breath, whether things are tougher physically or maybe even easier and more settled down. Now that we've settled in, all together, take a deep inhale through the nose. You want to feel your body expand. So you're getting bigger, larger as you keep inhaling all the way to the tip top of your lungs. Hold it for a moment. You're going to open your mouth, let it all go. If your eyes have been closed, slowly blink them open. If they're open, keep them open. Keep looking here. From this position, we're just going to sit up. Maybe adjust the seat if necessary, adjust your feet if necessary. Again, check in with how tall the spine is. Now we're going to start to do something called cat-cow motions. Typically it's done from a tabletop position, but what we're going to do really is warm up the pelvis all the way through the spine. I want you to place your palms flat on your thighs. And now with your inhale, I want you to feel like you're trying to pull with your hands, pull on your knees as if to lift your heart up higher. Your shoulders will go back and your head will rise. Chin can go up. With your exhale, your chin will move to your chest, and you're going to lean back into your butt, and you're going to push your hands now away from the thighs. So you lean back. From the side, it'll look like this. Inhale, pull yourself up. Notice that there's a big arch. It's almost like you're back bending, your butt sticking out as you lift. With your exhale, your chin comes to your chest. You're going to notice now your butt tucks under, your upper back rounds, and your front body pulls in as you lean back. 3 more of those. Inhale, lift the heart up, shoulders pull back, spine grows long. Exhale, chin to your chest. You're going to round and empty your lungs. Again, the breath is paramount here. Through the nose, inhale. Lift the spine up, create length, lift the heart. Shoulder blades squeeze on your back body. Exhale, shoulder blades move apart, chin to your chest, and roll back. Good. Then inhale, come back to neutral. So find that balanced position. With your exhale, just summon a little bit of grounding. So allow your breath to empty. Find that tall, long spine again. From here, we're going to take our right hand to the outside edge of our left thigh, all right? So again, you're just going to take right hand to the outside of your knee or the thigh, whatever gives you length. Keep your spine tall. You're going to take your left hand either to the floor behind you. If that's too much of a reach, of course, you can just hold on to your left hip or take your left arm all the way behind your back and gently hold on to the right side of your body and begin to twist your chest towards the left. Now, naturally, if you're new to this, knees are going to shift. They're not going to be even, which is perfectly fine. I just want you to gently notice that your right knee might be popping forward. Just think about taking your right groin, the right side of your hip, back in space. And notice that lifts you back up as you twist. Very subtle twist of the spine, but we're trying to keep our left and right side of the pelvis still facing forward as we turn. For another 3, the breath is nice and deep and smooth. 2. Again, your left hand could even go to your foot, to your hip, that's fine. And 1, slowly release, coming back to neutral. So again, we're going to try to keep the hips level to the front of our mat and our knees level to the front of our mat. Take your left hand to the outside of your right knee or right thigh. Right hand can go to your right hip. It can go to the floor if you'd like to lean back, or take that right arm behind your back and maybe you just rest the hand on the outer left hip. You can grab your pants, your shirt, whatever works. But using this left arm on the right leg to gently twist your heart towards the right. As you do this, the pesky left hip wants to come forward with you. Try your best to just take this whole left leg, this groin, this hip, and plug it back, which will take you out of the twist, but help you to lift the spine. Another 3. Again, expansive inhales. Grounding exhales. 2. And 1. You're going to slowly release back to neutral. Very nice. From this position, you get to get off of your ankles. I know for a lot of you, if you don't ever end up in this position, that's actually quite a bit. So just know you're doing a great job. You're going to end up in a tabletop position, which means shoulders end up over the wrists, hips end up over the knees. Once you find your stack, you want to do your best to shake out your legs. Of course you can. You can tuck your toes under if that gives you more power to push. Otherwise, pointed feet pushing down through the tops of the feet. With your hand, without being too detailed, spread your fingers out. So don't be timid. Don't just let your hands curl up naturally. I want you to spread out and then grab the floor as if you were to grab a doorknob or even this block, right? So you grab the floor so the fingers actually activate. As you grab the floor, try your best to ground all 5 knuckles of each hand. So this pinky, ring finger, and middle finger knuckles, they tend to stay down naturally. But this index knuckle and this thumb pad, they want to lift. Try your best to keep this whole archway down, specifically on the inside. So focus on that. Grab the floor and push down. Right? With your elbows straight, maybe your shoulders are near your ears, try your best to soften up your neck. So you're going to feel like your heart moves forward, free in the neck as you grab the floor, press down through all 10 knuckles. With your feet, push down into the earth. Now we're going to do cat-cows. 3 of these, we just did them seated. Now we're going to add it in from a tabletop. So with the cat-cows, the inhale is when you arch, so your butt goes up. Your chest drops to the thumbs and your head might even lift. So it's an archway with your spine. And now with your exhale, it's the opposite. Like a cat, you're going to push the ground away, drop your chin. You're going to feel your butt drop down as you push. Upper back will feel like it's doming. 2 more of those. Inhale, melt the chest. Tailbone goes up. So you can notice your booty is popping, your heart is lifted, your head is lifted. Exhale, chin to your chest. Your booty now drops. There's a rounding effect going through your spine. Push the earth away. 1 more to go. Inhale, melt away. Exhale, push the ground away and round. Now from this position, go ahead and bring your knees together and scoot them back a few more inches. So you're going to squeeze your feet. You can, of course, tuck your toes, but bring your legs together. The more you can squeeze your legs, the more you're going to feel power from the inner thighs all the way down through the glutes. So inner leg squeeze, glutes squeeze. Hands are underneath the shoulders. You're going to inhale, look forward, keeping the navel drawing in. So really suck the low belly in. Exhale, lean forward into your fingers and just micro bend the elbows while squeezing your elbows in. Don't let them flay out. Inhale, straighten the arms, keeping the belly, keeping the legs strong. Exhale, hug the elbows in and try to go a little bit lower. I know it's starting to warm up the forearms, the wrists, and the chest. 1 more time. Inhale, straighten the arms. Exhale, go forward, hug the elbows in, belly stays in, legs are strong, and then all the way down to the earth, to the mat. May have to shift back. From here, we're going to warm up the back line of our body. We're going to do something called Shalabhasana, which also means locust pose. It is a full back engager. It's a back bend, but it's more about strengthening than it is about bending deep. All right? Arms go back.
Notice my palms face up, and my thumbs are basically tapping my outer thighs. My toes are pointed, and I'm pushing my feet into the earth. Now, to start, we're gonna work on just grounding the feet so the kneecaps actually lift off the earth. Push the hands down and inhale. Lift your chest up. Pause on the exhale, just emptying the lungs, but lifting the navel away from the floor. So right now I'm rooting the hands, rooting the feet, but lifting my chest up, squeezing my shoulder blades together and reaching my fingers towards my toes for another 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release. I want you to feel how everything from the back of your legs all the way through your low back, mid-upper back is engaging. Now, we're gonna lift our limbs off the floor for this one, so we'll intensify the pose just a touch more. Inhale, lift your chest, but I'm still looking down my nose rather than forward. And with your exhale, lift the legs up off the floor, lift your hands up off the floor. Naturally, your shoulders wanna drop. Can you squeeze your shoulders together? Can you feel your chest open? Reach the arms further back behind you. With the legs, minimize how much your toes want to turn out. See if you can turn your toes inward. So that's called internal rotation of the thighs. Lift the legs for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. From there, release the feet. Now bring your hands right next to your rib cage. Push into your hands back to that tabletop position. Adjust your stance as much as you need to. You should feel like the whole backside of your body is pretty engaged. Now we're going to stretch it out. Hands go forward. Spread the fingers. Grab the floor like you're grabbing that rounded surface. Tuck your toes under, and you're gonna make an upside down V with your body. Just lift your butt up. Now, the knees may need to stay bent. The heels will be high off the floor, which is perfectly fine. Don't worry about getting your heels down. That's just icing on the cake. What we're trying to do here, though, is keeping the hands active. Can you push the front of your mat forward more? And at the same time, with your toes or your heels down, can you push the back of the mat further away from you while lifting your butt up towards the ceiling? So imagine there's a hook on your tailbone, and it's going higher. As the hands go forward, the feet go back. Drop the gaze, relax the neck, and breathe deep. So this is Adho Mukha Svanasana, which means downward facing dog. Notice that the back of your body is lengthening and creating more space. If this is troublesome, of course, bend the knees and work on lifting your butt up. We're trying to minimize a rounded feeling through your neck and through your low back. We're looking for length and lift. As you push the earth away, squeeze your arms together. As you push through the toes, lift your butt up just for another 3. I know you've been here for a while. 2, 1. Slowly bring your knees down, walk your hands in, sit up on your heels, look at me for a moment. All right, so down dog is kind of the fundamental asana, you could say, or posture for every hand down position. You really learn how to lengthen your back body, but also use the full body with what you're given. Now, down dog also is the starting point for something that we call a vinyasa. A vinyasa is literally to place with care. That's the literal translation. It's to place with intention, to put things together intentionally. But in the modern day, I think vinyasa just means it's when people flow, is what people think it is. So we'll just go with that definition. This is what a vinyasa looks like. From down dog, you would shift the plank pose, shoulders over the wrists, and then you'd need to bend the elbows to get down to the earth. From there, you would point the toes, normally go to a cobra or an upward facing dog, then you'd go right back to down dog. For us today, instead, it's going to be modified. It's going to be inhaling to plank pose, putting the knees down. Shifting forward, squeezing the butt, belly in, and bending the elbows, that modified bent elbow position. We'll just not talk about what it's called. From there, pointing the toes, you'll take the arms back for a moment and inhale, lift up to your Shalabhasana that we've already done. And then with our exhale, all in one motion, we'll put the hands down, feet down, push back through tabletop, tuck our toes, and lift our hips up to down dog. So all familiar poses that you've done so far. Notice there is a 1 breath per movement cycle going on. So find downward facing dog. Let's do our best together. All right. Down dog, find it. Once you're there, we're in a good place. So now with our inhale, we're going to shift forward to plank, which means shoulders just go over the wrist. Your legs are strong. Even if they're bent, it's okay, but strong as you can make them, arm strong. Exhale, you're going to put your knees down. Shift forward on your toes and start to bend your elbows. Remember, elbows squeeze in, gaze forward, all the way to your belly. Now you're gonna point your toes, immediately take your arms back, palms up, and inhale. Lift your chest, lift your hands, lift your feet, all in the same breath. And with your exhale, put your hands down, push back to tabletop, the knees are down. Tucking your toes, go ahead and inhale here. Adjust as much as you need to. Grab the earth and exhale, lift your hips up and back, down dog. Think you got it? Let's try it one more time. All right, from your down dog, inhale plank. So that means shoulders over the wrists. Try to keep your arms straight, legs straight. Exhale, knees come down, hug the elbows in as you look forward, bend the elbows. All the way to the belly. Now the arms go back. Big deep breath in, limbs lift, heart lifts, but look down the nose rather than too far forward. Exhale, put your hands down, push up to a tabletop position. Maybe adjust. Inhale, tucking your toes, your hips are starting to move back. Down dog is your exhale, lift your hips up and back. All right, now from that position, push the earth away, come up high into your toes. It might not be this high, but that's okay. Try your best to slowly walk forward. It might be more of a bent walk forward. You might have to walk your hands off to the side. That's okay. Just get up towards the front of your mat. Your feet are gonna end up hips distance and parallel to one another. Toes point forward. Kneecaps really point forward. Inhale, flat back. So you may need to bend your knees a good deal. Now exhale, fold. Having said that, we have our trusty blocks. If you need to in this fold, and you notice even with bent knees, you can't even get to the floor. Backside is tight. Put the blocks in front of your feet, tall way. Maybe you put your hands down and you work on folding here. The biggest thing is not about straightening the legs. The biggest thing that you want to look for is actually getting your thighs close to your abdomen. The closer these two are together, the more then you can work on straightening the legs by lifting your butt up and over. This will create a pull from the calf line all the way through the hamstrings, the glutes, the low back. Hang out here. This is called Uttanasana, which means intense stretch pose. We'll just call it a standing forward fold, all right? All right, and then from this position, inhale to a flat back, which means we want our spine to be somewhat parallel to the floor. Biggest thing though, you don't want to be in a flat back with a rounded low back. We're looking to create that trench. Notice it happens by sticking your butt back. It's like that cow position that we've been doing in our tabletop and in our seated position. This would be our cat. This is our cow. We want cow in the flat back. Knees can be bent or straight, maybe fingertips on the blocks. And then bend the knees, bend the elbows, fold back in. Let's try that 2 more times now with the breath. Inhale, flat back. Belly draws in, so try to suck the belly away from the floor. Exhale, fold. You can keep your legs bent or straight. 1 more time. Inhale, flat back. Lengthen. Exhale, fold. Good. Should be at the top of your mat. Hopefully your blocks are off the front of your mat. Just leave them there. You're gonna bend your knees a good deal and push down through your feet. Slowly roll your spine up to standing. Once you're standing, shake it out, let it go. So again, this is very much the basics of a Vinyasa flow practice. And in this practice, all we're gonna end up covering, the place we're gonna get to, is what we call Surya Namaskar A. Surya means sun. Namaskar means salutation. A is the first one because there are actually multiple sets, different kinds of sun salutation. So we have sun salutation A, and that's what we're looking at. Now, all the pieces you've done so far, we've done a standing forward fold. We just got up to standing, which is called Tadasana mountain pose, and I'll break it down a little more. And you have that whole vinyasa. You had your down dog, your back bend, your tabletop. It's a modified Surya Namaskar A, but you have learned basically all the building blocks to create this movement, this way of warming up. And that is really the beginning point of a Vinyasa flow practice. So let's get right into it, all right? Your 2 blocks are at the top, ready for you, just in case. Your feet are hips distance or together, but just know together means you have to work more on stability. Hips distance gives you a little more stability, right? So you can feel a little more based. We're in Tadasana mountain pose. Knees point forward, toes point forward. Strong legs. Notice if you tend to sit back with your butt back, so that's more of that cow. Maybe you sit forward with the pelvis pushing forward, that's more of that cat position. We want to find a balance. So the way to find it balanced, squeeze your inner legs together like you have a block there, and then gently squeeze your butt together. And that'll put your pelvis in a nice neutral, stable place. Your navel draws in and up as you lift your chest, and your shoulders gently roll back. So here's your mountain pose. Right, it's a pretty rigid pose, but it's very vertical, and it's a strong standing posture. This is the foundation or blueprint pose for every standing posture you take. And this is the beginning for our Surya Namaskar A. From here, inhale, we're gonna reach our arms up towards the ceiling. As you do this, notice if your pelvis shifts. Can you still keep the intensity in the legs and in the low belly? With your exhale, you can bend your knees or keep your legs straight. You're gonna fold. And you're gonna place your hands most likely on your blocks if you can't touch the floor. Remember, bent knees is always a good option to keep. Inhale to that flat back that you did a few times. And now with our exhale, we're gonna step back to down dog. So you might have to put your knees down first, plant your palms, and then shift all the way back. So this is a modified Surya A. It's not your traditional, but it is still keeping you in the movement, in the flow. From your down dog, inhale to that plank pose. Your shoulders end up over your wrists. Put your knees down, exhale, bend the elbows. We call this chaturanga, but we're not gonna break it down fully, it's a modified version, all the way to the floor. Your head might be right between the blocks. Take your arms back and inhale, lift your legs, lift your hands up. That's Shalabhasana, locust pose. And with your exhale, plant your hands, push back to a tabletop position. Readjust, tuck your toes on the inhale. With your exhale, lift your hips up and back, downward facing dog. Remember, grab the floor, squeeze the hands into the earth, all 10 knuckles ground. As you push the earth away, can you lift your butt up? As your butt rises up, can you push away with the feet? From this position, we need to get back up to the top of the mat, so we're gonna do a shimmy or a walk. And inhale, rise up to your toes, and exhale, start to tiptoe forward. You may have to bend your knees to get there, and that's fine. Try your best, depends on how tight you are through the backside. Once you end up at the top, feet hips distance. Inhale, flat back position, maybe bent knees, fingers to the blocks if necessary. Exhale, you're gonna fold. Keeping the knees bent or not. Inhale, you're gonna rise up. Now you can do it with a flat back or you can come up rounded. It's honestly your choice. Try them both out. Arms are up. Exhale, hands come to your heart. We're back to starting point A. Remember, this is a modified Surya A. It's not your traditional, yeah? Let's try that again, a little more fluid. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, you're gonna fold down. Hands can go to the blocks or to the floor, knees could be bent. Inhale, flat back, lift and lengthen. You're gonna exhale, step back to down dog. That is not the traditional way, but we're gonna go to down dog as our foundation with the hands down. Inhale to plank pose, shoulders over the wrists. Put your knees down and exhale. Hug your elbows in as you look forward and bend. All the way to the belly, to the earth. Hands go back for a moment and inhale, lift everything up. Navel draws in, legs are active, arms are active, shoulder blade squeeze. Exhale, tabletop position. You're gonna round just a little bit. Adjust your hands and inhale, tuck your toes. The hips start to shift back, the arms are pushing. Down dog, exhale, lift your hips up and back. Pushing the earth away, grab the floor, squeeze the arms together, lift your butt up. Heels do not need to touch the earth, but they're going back. Let's try and get back up to the top of the mat. Typically you take 5 breaths here, but for time's sake, I'm gonna keep you moving. Try to get through at least one more round after this. Inhale, rise to your toes. Look towards your hands and exhale, start to tiptoe forward. Can you keep the hands flat? You might have to come up on your fingertips just to get there, and that's perfectly okay. Inhale to flat back, maybe fingers to your blocks. Exhale, you're gonna fold in, Uttanasana, that intense stretch pose or standing forward fold. You can bend your knees or keep your legs straight with your belly drawing in. Inhale, rise up. You can do it flat back or rounded back. Exhale, hands come to the heart. So this is starting point, ending point, one more round, even more fluid, less cueing. Inhale, reach the arms. Exhale, you're gonna fold down, Uttanasana. Maybe hands to blocks. Inhale, flat back, Ardha Uttanasana, half flat back. Good. Exhale, down dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Butt rises, hands push, feet ground. Inhale, plank, shoulders over your wrists. With the belly active, put the knees down. Exhale, bend your elbows, squeeze in. Elbows over the wrist, don't shift them back, stay forward. All the way to your belly, point your toes, hands back. Inhale, lift the chest, lift the hands, lift the legs. Exhale, hands plant down right into that tabletop, more of a cat position, so starting to round as you push. With your inhale, adjust your hands, tuck your toes, your butt starts to rise up. Exhale is down dog. Lift your hips up and back. We gotta finish it out, but I'll give you a few more moments in down dog. So as you get in your down dog again, feel the earth beneath your hands. Feel the earth beneath your toes and maybe your heels. Imagine someone's lifting your hips up or your butt up. You're trying to make that V, the highest point of your pyramid, as tall as possible. Keep pushing forward with the hands. Keep pushing back with the feet. I've had a few breaths here. Let's get back up to the top. Inhale, rise to your toes. With your exhale, look forward and slowly start to walk forward. It might be straight legs, it might be flat-handed. Start to make your way up. With your feet hips distance together, inhale, flat back, Ardha Uttanasana is your inhale. Exhale, you're gonna fold, Uttanasana. You can always bend your knees. Now, rounded spine or flat back, inhale, roll the spine all the way up. Nice and slow, you're gonna stand tall, arms reach high. Exhale, hands come to the heart. That concludes moving through Surya A. Now, I would recommend, if you have the time, you could always pause and start to run through it. But just to clarify, this is not your traditional Surya A. This is a modified one for those of you that are very new to yoga. I'm just trying to get you familiar with the movements, the postures, and the breath work, moving in and out, okay? So that's Surya Namaskar A modified, all right? All right, so from here, typically, you would end up in a lot more standing postures where the legs are apart and split apart. okay? But for today, we were just looking at Surya A, and that's all we wanted to work on. So now I do want to take you down. If you think of a Vinyasa flow practice as a storyline, you started climbing a mountain, and typically you would do a lot of standing postures to help you get to the peak of the mountain, and then you have to climb back down the mountain. You have to descend back to earth, so to speak. So that would be the process of cooling down or doing grounding postures, which are highly beneficial just as much as the standing postures, okay? So now let's get into some seated postures that are quite a standard or a foundation when it comes to the Vinyasa flow practice. So to start off, I just want you to end up on your bum. All right. When you end up on your bum, and you can have your blocks handy off to the side, but for now you can put them off to the side. Your legs go straight out in front of you. You can now roll your inner thighs inward and take a moment. This is called Dandasana staff pose. Now I know for a lot of you, the legs were probably not straight, and as you hold this position, especially with straight legs, you might be tucked under. This could happen. The way to get out of this like cat position will be to take your knees, bend them, and you'll notice by bending your knees, you've actually released a little bit of what's tight in the backside, and you can lift up. You could hold on to your shins. You could actually take your blocks next to you and work on pushing down to feel like you're lifted. But again, we're going back to that trench in the lumbar rather than the rounded position. You want to feel like you're lifting up out of it, lifting the heart high. All right, so you can choose. This is perfectly fine. Stay here for a few breaths. Notice this pose becomes difficult if you really think about all the positions that you need to do or things you need to do. Push the heels down. Pull the belly in, lift the spine up. And know that this is the foundation to seated postures. Dandasana staff pose is the beginning of every seated posture. Another 3, 2, 1. From this position, you could either straighten the legs out or you can keep that soft bend. What we're going to do is work on engaging our feet. So that might mean spreading your toes, but push the heels down, your kneecaps face the ceiling, and maybe you take the blocks with you and you slowly start to fold over your thighs. And that might be where you stop. You can even rest your forearms on the blocks. Otherwise, your knees are highly bent, your chest is on the thighs, forearms can be on the blocks again, or you have the option of trying to straighten the legs, but can you keep the upper body glued to the thighs? You should be feeling something either through the low back to mid upper back, possibly through the glutes, definitely through the hamstrings, the back of your thigh bones, right? Hanging out here, breathe deep. Feet, check in. Are they just hanging out? Can you energize? Heels, can you ground them? Belly, can you pull it in and up away from the thighs as you gaze forward and look forward to fold in deeper? Straight legs, icing on the cake, right? But this takes time. Another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, look forward. Exhale, slowly rise up. From here, move your blocks off to the side. I'm going to have you lie down on your back. You're going to pull your knees into your chest. Give yourself a nice squeeze. As you give yourself a loving hug, notice how as the knees come closer to your upper body, your low back rounds into that cat position and it starts to lift you up. So feel that. It's a nice deep forward fold and stretch. From this position, you're going to keep your right knee in, straighten your left leg out, pause. You might be here, whatever you can do, hold onto the shin, or you can even hold onto the hamstring if the leg is too far away from you. As we hang out here, I want you to feel all the stuff at the front of your right hip engaging to help you pull the knee up. You're essentially elongating the back of your right side. Your left leg is as straight as you can make it, otherwise the knee can be bent and hanging out right there. Then from this position, we're going to do a subtle twist, which will open up your outer hip and your low back. You're going to take your right knee over to the left. Now, you may need to shift your hips over to come over here. So you'd have to shift your hips to the right first and then drop your right knee to the left. Your left hand can hold onto your right leg to help you with the twist. This right arm, it helps to bend like a cactus arm, so 90 degrees, and pin the back of the arm to the floor as you twist. Basically, you want the center of your chest, the outer edge of your right hip, and your left heel all to end up on a straight line, 180 degrees. And you should feel a nice little twist to the outer right hip. It's a stretch there. Low back is lengthening. Feel like you're doing the cow position, that arched back bend position, or even Shalabhasana, the locust position through your chest. This will give you more length rather than a rounded position. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release. Come back to center. You may need to shift your hips back to the midline. Pull your left knee in, straighten your right leg, pause, hold on to shin, hamstring, whatever works for you. Now from this side, We're gonna have to shift our hips over to the left, so you might have to do a little shimmy. Probably have to bend your right knee to get leverage to do that. Then maybe straighten the leg back out or keep the right leg bent. Take your right hand to your left thigh, drop your left knee to the right. Left elbow helps to bend 90 degrees, see if you can get that shoulder head back in space. The hand goes back. Or you can straighten. And while you're here, right hand holding onto the left leg, again, you're looking to lengthen the left side of your spine as well as the outer hip. While you hang out here, you want to breathe deep and go back to inhales being expansive, exhales being grounding. Lift the chest up like that locust pose or like a back bend, like your cow position. 3, 2, and 1. Slowly release. You're going to have to shift your hips back to the center, pull your knees into your chest, give yourself a loving squeeze. Now, stay where you are on your back. I'm going to rock back and forth and come up to seated. Typically, at the end of any practice, you're going to have something called Shavasana, which I believe is actually the most important position or asana posture. It's literally corpse pose. And you have to allow your body to relax after working it so hard. The whole point of yoga, it's about self-inquiry. It's not about the postures you achieve or how well you can fold in. It's more about how you feel at the end of the practice and how well you can sit still and be at peace with yourself, right? So this pose, corpse pose, you lie down on your back. Preferably you close your eyes and you're there for at least a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes if possible, especially in the short practice, all right? So this is where I'm gonna leave you. I would prefer you to stay in Shavasana, stay there for 5 minutes on your own, come out slowly, take your time. Otherwise, you could just sit up with me, sit down back in that Virasana or sitting on your heels, Vajrasana. Take a few moments with your heart high. Find appreciation and gratitude for this practice, this body, this thing we call life. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Namaste.